Welcome back to the Social Selling Podcast. Today, we are talking about all things voice notes, audio LinkedIn messages, which are one of the biggest opportunities unused by salespeople all around the world. I did a LinkedIn poll not too long ago. Over 7,000 people voted, so it's a pretty good voting pool size. And I asked, are you sending LinkedIn voice notes? Here were the results. Again, over 7,000 people voted. Off those 7,000 people, 94%, 94% were not sending any LinkedIn voice notes right now. Of the remaining 6%, 4% of those were only sending 1 to 2. It was the smallest percentage that were sending a decent quantity on a regular basis. The majority of people are not sending voice notes, which is why they're working so well. Let's think about this for a second. Let's take a little stroll through history. Imagine if you were a salesperson when the telephone was first invented, before salespeople were making cold calls all the time. Imagine if you were one of the first salespeople to make a cold call. How excited would your prospects be answering the phone, which is new, it's exciting. To be fair, when I was younger, it was still exciting to use the phone. Come from the pre-mobile era where back then everyone had landlines. If you're in the office, you've got landlines, and people enjoy talking on the phone because there wasn't text and instant message and email and all those things. So there was a time when the novelty factor was there and people enjoyed it. That time has changed and people don't really like using the phone as much. I'm not going to turn this into a cold calling social selling debate, don't worry. But what is very clear, voice notes are still a very new form of communication, and on LinkedIn, even newer. Obviously, we've been sending voice notes on text platforms, WhatsApp, for years now, but for LinkedIn, it's still a very new feature, one of which lots of people have never, ever used. And for a lot of your prospects and customers, they may never have even received a single audio voice note. There are some months, most months I'll add, where in my LinkedIn inbox, and my LinkedIn inbox gets, there really isn't a flex to this, it is chaos to try and manage, but my inbox gets hundreds of messages every single month. Most months, there are 0 audio voice notes, and I have salespeople pitching me every single day. Most months, 0 voice notes. I might get a handful of voice notes across a year sent from salespeople. The only other time will be if I've sent one or it's to someone I know, etc. But from a cold messaging perspective, very low. Which means when it does happen, A, there is a higher chance I'm going to listen to that voice note compared to read the message, which gets drowned with all the other messages. And by the way, that's what's happening to me. It's going to be 10 times worse for CEOs, other C-level decision makers out there, VPs, directors, business owners. They're going to be getting lots more messages from salespeople. And if most of those messages are just written messages, it's like a stack of paper. They're drowning in this ever-growing stack of paper that they just can't keep on top of. So when a voice note comes in and it stands out because it looks completely different, it's delivered completely different, there is a much higher chance they're going to listen. Not only that, a voice note takes your message to the next level. In a written message, you have words. Great. But in a voice note, you have those words and now you have tone. You have the sound of your voice. You can express enthusiasm. You can smile, which can be heard. You can laugh. You can make your message engaging. And it takes the words to a whole new level. Voice notes are an incredible opportunity, and what I want to unlock today is how to send the best voice notes. So my first big tip on this is have some structure to what you're going to say. I see a lot of salespeople that don't have any structure, or they'll have too much structure. So let's look at two ends of the coin here. Too much structure. If you're just reading off of a script, and for anyone who's just listening to this, I'm pulling up a piece of paper. You can see this in the video. But if I was to read off of a script, I would be looking down at the paper, which you can instantly hear the change in tone in my voice. And I might be reading the words. So I'm concentrating on the words on my paper, which is going to sound really formal. I'm now pretty much on a monotone basis. Again, deeper voice. It sounds like I'm not interested. So too much structure and having a script, not a good idea. Not enough structure might lead me to have a message that's, hi, my name's Dan. I was just looking at your LinkedIn profile. What I saw was, let me just find it. It becomes a bit too chaotic. Now, I am all for humanizing messaging. It is okay to make mistakes. I'm not suggesting it needs to be pitch perfect, no mistakes at all. But too many mistakes, and you're going to struggle to build confidence in your prospects and your buyers. So what we want to do is find that nice spot in the middle where we have a structure. You know what the outcome is you're trying to achieve with that message. You know who you're messaging, why you're messaging them, and any other key bits of information you're going to reference in that message. So you want to have some level of preparation before you send the message, just to avoid too many ums and ers. And obviously, what I wouldn't suggest either is reading off of a script where, again, you're not going to sound human, it's not going to sound personal, and it's just going to sound like a sales pitch. What you want it to sound like is that you're messaging someone like you're having a conversation. This is LinkedIn, this is social networking. It's like a networking event when you're going to go up to someone and talk to them. A voice note is just that. You want your message to have life, which takes us through to the next big key tip, and that is your tone. So again, and I'm not teaching you to suck eggs here. There'll be lots of you that are experienced telephone sellers and prospectors, and you would have been taught this many times. But for some of you, maybe this isn't something you've been taught too much of. So things like your posture, sitting upright or standing. I'm a stander personally. When I'm doing voice notes, I am walking around my office, and usually back when I would make cold calls, I'd have a headset. My hands are usually quite animated, and again, that helps me be expressive in my voice. Whether you're sat down, you're stood up, just make sure your posture's good. And again, things like smiling, it makes a difference to your voice. Smile. If your message isn't happy, it's probably not going to sound very happy. And that's not very fun to listen to, unless it's obviously a very serious message. But we're not really talking about those here. We're talking about prospecting messages and sales messages and relationship building messages, where you, most of the time, they should hopefully be very positive messaging. So smiling, sitting upright or standing, just making sure your voice sounds clear, crisp, and confident. Make sure you sound confident, enthusiastic, passionate. If you don't sound like you believe in your product or the problems that you solve, how do you think they're going to believe it? So make sure your voice is echoing that. Number 3, you want to make sure they're short and sweet. Now, you have a grand total of 60 seconds to record a voice note on LinkedIn. Might not sound like much. It's a pretty decent amount of time. And honestly, we won't go into this conversation why audio voice notes are 60 seconds, but with video messages, you can do 2 minutes. Why there's such a big difference, I don't know. But either way, you are limited to 60 seconds with an audio voice note. Now, here's one thing I would recommend you avoiding. You can record 60 seconds and then start recording another one. And I've had it a few times where there's been one 60-second message, another 60-second message, one 20-second message, and essentially that's all one conversation. That's a little bit messy, and you're also suddenly asking for a lot more time from your prospects that you're messaging. So I would try and stick to the 60 seconds and maybe between 40 to 60, just keep them as short and sweet as you can. And what's most important is that you make your call to action, your CTA, as simple as possible. You do not want to be starting to read off some really complex process of what they need to do next for you. Make it easy. For example, hey Sarah, my name's Dan. I'm a LinkedIn social selling trainer. I would love to see if maybe my training might help your sales team unlock more leads from LinkedIn. I'd love to send you a bit of information on what the training includes and some examples of results we've achieved for other companies. Just let me know the best email address to send it to, and I'll ping it over straight away. Nice, simple, easy call to action. Again, all they have to do is type in that. And for a lot of people, this is what they actually do. They just type in their email address. That's fine. That's all you've asked for. That's all you need. Or maybe it's something like, maybe you're at the stage of trying to book a meeting, would love to set something up in the calendar. If you want, I can send you a link to my calendar, or if not, send me a link to your calendar and I'll book a time that best suits you. Again, keep it simple. Make it as easy as possible for them to respond. The more complex you make it, the less likely they'll be of getting back to you. So have a really simple call to action. Now, the beauty of voice notes is they're actually quite easy to send. Compared to typing, you can really batch out a lot of voice messages in a short space of time. As long as you know who you're messaging, what you're going to be saying, they're actually really easy and efficient to send. Now, here's my final big tip on sending epic voice notes on LinkedIn. When is the best time to send a voice note? And here's the thing. Every time is a good time to send a voice note. One of my biggest tips is it doesn't matter at what stage of the process you send a voice note. Let's say you first sent, and there's a nice opportunity coming on the back of this tip. Let's say you've sent a written message to a prospect and they haven't replied. Instead of sending another written message, send a voice note instead. You'd be surprised at how many actually come back to you from the voice message, but never got back to you on the written message. On that tip, maybe look back at the last month, quarter, or even the last year's worth of written messages that you've sent that never came back to you and try sending them a voice note. I guarantee you'll be surprised how many come back to you. And guess what? If they don't respond to your voice note, can you guess what I'm going to suggest? Try a video message. This is the beauty of LinkedIn. It gives you so many different ways to start or continue conversations. Voice notes are an incredible opportunity. Make sure you have some level of preparation and structure. You know what you're going to say and what your desired outcome is. Think about your tone, posture, smiling. Think about what you're saying. And then finally, have super simple call to action to make it as easy as possible for them to respond and progress along the sales process. Those are my big tips for sending epic voice notes. And here is my big offer to you, my wonderful listeners and viewers. If you haven't sent a voice note yet, and maybe you're lacking a bit of confidence, which is normal, I was scared the first time I did it as well, I'm going to open the doors and invite you to send me a voice note as your first one, just to get used to doing it. You can say anything you want in the message. You could practice a script. You can just say hi. But if you want to just get comfortable or get some experience in sending voice notes, please do feel free to send me one. And I look forward to hopefully getting some voice notes from our listeners very soon. With that, I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one very soon.